go.
Nun Testament base. If you want to be on Nun Zayin, it's not that hard. Okay. Nazir shahaya tamei b'safek umuchlat b'safek. So the case is that you have a guy, and he's tamei b'safek and a mitzora b'safek. What does that mean? Well, that means that there was a witness who is not sure which one of two Nazirs became tamei, and this is one of those guys. And this guy might be tamei, and he might not be tamei. So he is a tamei. He's maybe tamei. He's a Nazir who's maybe tamei. And also, he is maybe a mitzora. How can you maybe be a mitzora? So let's say he was one of two people who were diagnosed, and the symptoms disappear, and now nobody remembers which one of them was a mitzora. So you have this poor guy standing in front of us now, and he has a possibility of four things. And again, that's what I have on the sheet here. If you want to follow along, it'll make your life a lot easier. So there's a possibility of four things over here with this guy, this poor guy in front of us. Either he's a regular Nazir, I'm on the top left, or, for the people that are watching on camera, here's the sheet. He's a regular Nazir, or he's a Nazir Mitzora, or he's a Nazir Tameh, or he's a Nazir Mitzora and a Nazir Tameh. So this guy can be one of four things. Now, why does that make a difference? Because depending on what he is, that's what he needs to do. That's if he needs to shave, not shave. That's if he needs to bring a certain korban, not a certain korban. So we're not even going to get to the korbanos yet, because that's already the next level. That's advanced calculus. This is just the basic calculus now. So what does he do? Ochel bekotshim achar shishim yom, v'shose yayinu mitame lamesim achar mea ve'esrim yom. He can eat kachim after 60 days, and he can go ahead and he can drink wine and be metame to mesim after 120 days. Where does this come from? Well, let's go to the chart. When I was growing up, there was a guy, I forgot his name, I think it was Warner Wolf. He was on the news, and whenever he did the sports, and whenever he had the sports, his line was, let's go to the videotape. So here we have, let's go to the sheet. So on day number 30, so what happens? We're on day number 1 now. We have this poor guy who could be one of four things. So what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to be machmir for the worst possible scenario, but we're also going to have to take care of all of the other possible scenarios. So RN means regular Nazir, NM means Nazir Mitzora, NT means Nazir Tameh, NM and NT means Nazir Mitzora and Nazir Tameh. Those are the four possibilities. So on day number 30, he shaves his entire body. Why can't he do it earlier? Usually if you're a Mitzora, you could do it right away on the first day, and then that's the beginning of your Tara process, and then 7 days later you finish your Tara process for Mitzora. He can't do it now because what happens if he's a regular Nazir now? If he's a regular Nazir, he can't cut his hair for 30 days. So at 30-day period, on day number 30, he can now shave his entire body according to every one of the possibilities. Why? Because if he's a regular Nazir, he shaves his body on day number 30 and he's finished with his Nazirus. So that guy's now out of the picture. If he's a Nazir Mitzora, so what happens when he shaves his body on day number 30? That's the beginning of his Tahara process. If he's a Nazir Tameh, what happens when he shaves his body on day number 30? Well, now he's finished with his Tameh period, because again, you shave your body at the end of the Tameh period. So now he's done with his Tameh period, but now he needs to begin his another Nazirus period from 30 to 60. If he's both a Nazir Mitzora and a Nazir Tameh, so the Tameh we can't even talk to yet, because first we have to take care of the Mitzora, which take precedence. So what does he do? He starts his Mitzora Tara process as well. So what you basically have on day number 30 is you're shaving your body as a regular Nazir to finish. If you're a Nazir Mitzora or a Nazir Mitzora and a Nazir Tameh, then you're starting the Mitzora Tara process. And if you're a Nazir Tameh, you're ending the Nazir Tameh period and you're beginning the new Nazirus period. That's day number 30. Day number 60, what happens? Well, on day number 60, you shave your entire body again, but now you need to bring the Mitzora sacrifices. Why? Well, you see there's no RN there because the RN is done. He's out of the picture. If, again, it's one guy, but we're choshesh for this four different personalities that this one guy might have. So RN is done. Now, what happens if he was a Nazir Mitzora? That means on day number 30, he started the Mitzora Tara process. And on day number 60, when he shaves his entire body, now he ends the Mitzora Tara process, which is why he's bringing the Mitzora sacrifices. But now he needs to start his new Nazirus period from 60 to 90. If he's a Nazir Tameh, then on day number 60, now he's done with the 30 days of Nazirus that he kept from 30 to 60, and now he's finished with his Nazirus. If he's a Nazir Mitzora and a Nazir Tameh, it's the same as if he was just a Nazir Mitzora, because we said first he needs to deal with the Nazir Mitzora part. Now he ends the Mitzora Tara process, which is why he's bringing the Mitzora sacrifices. But instead of him just being a Nazir Mitzora, now we need to start the new Nazirus period. Now that he's also a Nazir Tameh, now he needs to begin the 30-day Nazir Tameh period. which will end on day number 90. But that's why on day number 60, as you said, Mimanashach means either way, he's no longer a Mitzorah. Because even if he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, by day number 60, now that he shaved twice, day number 30 started the Mitzorah Tara process, day number 60 ended it. That's why if you look back in the Mishnah, it says, Ochel bekachim achar shishim yom. You could eat kachim on day number 60, because Lamaisa, you're no longer a Mitzorah. And only mitzad the Mitzorah could you not eat kachim. Mitzad the Nazirus, and even the Nazir Tameh, you could still eat kachim. However, he can't drink wine or contaminate until he's definitely done with his Nazirus. Well, he's not done with his Nazirus yet, because if he's a Nazir Mitzorah, he still has to do his new Nazirus period. And if he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, he's still got 2 periods left. So on day number 90, he goes in and he shaves his head again. If he was a Nazir Mitzorah, now he just finished his 30-day Nazirus period, which now he's finished on day number 90. But if he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, then on day number 90, now he's done with the Nazir Tameh period, but now he needs to begin his new Nazirus period. And therefore on day number 120 when he shaves his head, so now that's in case he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, now he's totally finished with the Nazirus. The Rishonim discuss, as we brought up in the past, that this might only be by a woman or a child, because a man might not be able to shave a Savik, but we're not going to get into that for now. So right now you have 30, 60. At the end of 60, he's definitely done with his Mitzorah. That's why he can eat the kachim. At the end of 120, now according to all 4 possibilities, he's done with his Nazirus. And that's why only on day 120 can he now go ahead and eat and drink wine and be Metame Mace, because again, now he's Tahor, now he's no longer a Nazir, even if he was in the worst case scenario, a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh. And that's why the Mishnah says, now again, remember that when I said this is the hardest DAF in Nazir, it's easy when you have the sheet in front of you. Until you have that sheet in front of you, so it's not that easy. Just keep that in mind. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, this was the easiest DAF in all of Nazir. Okay. Tiglachas hanega doche tiglachas de Nazir bizman shehu vadai ava bizman shehu safek eina doche. So now this is explaining, the end of the Mishnah is explaining, why can't the Mitzorah Tara start the process until day number 30? We said on day number 30, if he's a Nazir Mitzorah or a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, that's when he starts the Tara process. So I alluded to this before. I said, why can't he start on day number 1? Usually if a Nazir becomes a Mitzorah on day number 1, he can go ahead and start the Mitzorah Tara process. So the answer is because you're only allowed to shave your body as a Mitzorah if you're a Vadai Mitzorah. That means only a Vadai Mitzorah pushes off the prohibition of shaving your body during the Nazirus. A Safek Mitzorah doesn't. So why can he even shave on day number 30? Because as we've explained, on day number 30, according to all 4 of the possibilities, you've explained why you can shave your head. If he's a regular Nazir, he's done with his Nazirus. If he's a Nazir Mamzer, so he's starting his Tara process, what happens if he was a Nazir Tameh? It doesn't matter. Now he's done with the Nazir Tameh period, and now he begins his new Nazirus period. So that's why, over here, he can doche tiglach Nazir bisman shehu vadnai, bisman shehu safek and a doche. In our case, he's a safek. We don't know whether he's a Mitzorah or not, and that's why he needs to wait to day number 30 to get the ball rolling. So now we have 30, 60, 90, 120. Fine, sounds simple. Says the Gemara, Tana. Where is this 30, 60, 90, 120? B'Nazirus Muetes. This is when we're dealing with a regular Nazirus, a Stam Nazirus of 30 days. So you have 30, 60, 90, 120. Top of Samach Hamad Aleph. Aval B'Nazirus Bat Shana. Let's say the guy, anybody good at math out here, let's say the guy took a Nazirus for a year. So what's that going to be? If he took a Nazirus for a year, so then the equivalent of the 30 days would be a year. So then what would the 60 days be? Double that. 2 years. What would the 90 days be? 3 years. What would the 120 days be? 4 years. That's what the Gemara says. It's just math. 4 times all of the other ones. Aval b'Nazirus bat shana, ochel bekachim lachar shtei shanim, v'shosei yayin b'tamei lemesim lachar arba shanim. The 2 years equivalent of the 60 days, and the 4 years equivalent of the 120 days. Fine. Very easy. V'tani Allah. Umigaleach. Now, if that wasn't hard enough, now we're going to add the korbanos into the picture as well. Umigaleach arba taglichios. He's going to shave 4 times. Now, tiglachas rishona. Now keep your eyes on the bottom and on the top. I put it onto one page. You have day number 30 on the bottom and day number 30 on top. So we discussed the shaving. Now we're going to discuss which korbanos you bring. So tiglachas rishona maybe tziporim v'chatas ha'of olas behema. Shnia maybe chatas ha'of olas behema. Shlishis maybe chatas ha'of olas behema. Revi maybe korban tara. So let's see this now on the sheet. On day number 30, what does he do? He brings 2 birds. Why is he bringing 2 birds? Well, he might be a Nazir Mitzorah, or he might be a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh. So we said that starts his Mitzorah Tara process on day number 30 when he shaves his head. Well, in order to start your Mitzorah Tara process, you need to go ahead and bring 2 birds. Now, I wrote in parentheses outside of the Beis HaMikdash because the Mitzorah brings 2 birds outside the Beis HaMikdash. If he was bringing them inside the Beis HaMikdash, he wouldn't be able to bring them now because Lamaisa, he wouldn't be able to bring them if we're not sure because he might not be either one of these. So since he's bringing them outside of the Beis HaMikdash, it's not a problem for him to bring them. So he brings these 2 birds, which will be for in case he's a Nazir Mitzorah, and a Nazir Tameh. What happens if he's a Nazir Tameh only? So we said this ends the Nazir Tameh period. What does he bring as a Nazir Tameh at the end of the period? Well, he brings different things. He brings an Ola bird, an Asham lamb, and a Chatas bird. But he can't bring the Ola bird and the Asham lamb because he's not allowed to bring those, because he might not have to bring those. He could bring the Chatas bird because a Chatas bird is allowed to be brought besafek. So that's why he brings the Chatas bird in case he's a Nazir Tameh and only a Nazir Tameh. And now he might also just be finished with his Naziris. He might have just been a regular Nazir. So he needs to bring the Ola lamb in case he's a regular Nazir. Now he doesn't bring the Chatas lamb or the Shlamim lamb, as we'll see. He brings it at the end of 120. He brings the Ola lamb because he can bring the Ola lamb conditionally that if I'm in fact finishing my Naziris, then the Ola lamb should be good. If I'm not, so then the Ola can be a Nidava to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's what we see over here. That's on day number 30. What happens on day number 60? Now remember, go up to the top of the chart again. On day number 60, his regular Naziris is gone if he was a regular Nazir. So now you got to deal with the other 3 possibilities. So on day number 60, what could he be? Well, we said, if he's a Nazir Mitzorah, that means he's now done with the Mitzorah Tara process. Or if he's a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, now he's done with the Nazir, with the Mitzorah Tara process. What do you bring when you're done with the Mitzorah process? So we said, as we said in day number 30, you bring a Chatas bird. Just like you bring a Chatas bird to end the Nazir Tameh period. You bring a Chatas bird to end the Nazir Mitzorah or Nazir Mitzorah and Nazir Tameh period. And what else is it possible now? Well, if he was a Nazir Tameh, then you look up on top on day number 60, what's he up to? Now he's finished with his Naziris. If he's finished with his Naziris, then he needs to bring the same Ola lamb that he brought on day number 30, because again, on day number 30, he might have been finished with his Naziris if he was a regular Nazir. On day number 60, he's finished with his Naziris if he was a Nazir Tameh. So now he needs to bring the same Ola lamb again. Again, the Chatas bird is because in case he's a Nazir Mitzorah or Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, now he's ending the Mitzorah Tara process. What's left on day number 90? Well, now, the Nazir, regular Nazir, we're done with. If he was a Nazir Tameh, we're done with. But now you have 2 different possibilities. Now you have the possibility that he was a Nazir Mitzorah. Well, if he was a Nazir Mitzorah, look back on top. What happens on day number 90? Now he's finished with his Nazirah. So what does he need to bring, obviously? An Ola lamb. Ola lamb is brought in case he's a Nazir. So, right, you understand. 30 we're bringing an Ola lamb, 60 we're bringing an Ola lamb, 90 we're bringing an Ola lamb. But we're bringing them for different purposes. 30 we're bringing them because he might be done with his Naziris if he was a regular Nazir. 60 we're bringing it because he might have been done with his Naziris if he was a Nazir Tameh. 90 we're bringing it because he might be done with his Naziros if he was just a Nazir Mitzorah. But he still needs to bring a Chatas bird, because if he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh, then we said that on day number 60 he ended his Mitzorah process and begins his Nazir Tameh period. But now on day number 90, when he ends the Nazir Tameh period, he brings a Chatas bird, just like he brought a Chatas bird in day number 60 to end the Mitzorah Tara process, and he brought a Chatas bird on day number 30 to end the Nazir Tameh process. That's what he does on day number 90. And on day number 20, well, now he's done with everything, because now the regular Nazir is out of the picture, the Nazir Mamzer is out of the picture, the Nazir Tameh is out of the picture. What's left? The Nazir Tameh and the Nazir Mamzer. But now Lamaisi is done with his Naziros, even within that, at 120. So now what?
Keep calling him a mom.
Oh, Mamzer. Okay, he's probably whatever. Okay, he's a Mitzorah. It's just much. What?
He's only
a Mitzorah. So he's a Nazir Mitzorah. I want to see if you're paying attention. Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh. So what Lamaisa happens on day number 20? On day number 120, now he's done with everything. Now he needs to bring another Ola lamb. I didn't write that on the sheet, but he brings another Ola lamb conditionally. But now he brings the Chatas and the Shlamim, because Lamaisa, what's the Chatas and the Shlamim? Those are the other 2 you need at the end of your Naziris. So he didn't bring those until now because he might not have been done with his Naziris. Now that he's definitely done with his Naziris, no matter which one of these 4 personalities he was, he finishes up the other 2 sacrifices for the regular Naziris, which is the Chatas lamb and the Shlamim lamb. Again, it's easier when you have the chart in front of you. Now you understand the Korbanos and the thing. But that's what he meant over here when he said Megalech Arba Tiglachios. Fine. Amart. So you told me, Tiglachas Rishon Mevi, we are 7 lines down in the Gemara. You told me these all things that they're bringing, Tiglachas Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Ravi. Mimanav Shach, and now he's just going to explain it outside. Now it gets easy. Shaper Kamaisi, you're right. Whatever he's doing is right. Why? De'i vadai mitzora hu vilav tamehu. If he was what? If he was just a Nazir mitzora, so then what? Tzipor and chavaso. Then the 2 birds that he brought on day number 30, that was his chova to start the mitzora tara process. V'chatas ha'ov safek aizel l'kvura. And again, the chatas bird that he brought in case he was a Nazir tameh to end the Nazir tameh period, that works. However, he can't eat it because it might not be needed. Because he might not have been a Nazir tameh. He might have been a regular Nazir. He might have been one of the other ones. So he brings it in case he was a Nazir tameh, but he can't eat it. The Ola, what?
It's one of the 5 chatos that are made.
Right. The Ola havya nedava, and the Ola is a nedava. Again, we brought an Ola lamb in case he's what? In case he's a regular Nazir and he's finishing his Nazirus. But it's a nedava in case it turns out that he wasn't actually a regular Nazir. Ulagalcho, and we change this over here, besof. Ulagalcho sof shiva efshar, as we explained. Why can't he go ahead and shave on day 1 and day number 7 or day number 8, as a mitzora always does? Because he might not be a mitzora, and only a definite mitzora pushes off the nazirus. The dilma lav muchladu, he's not a definite mitzora. V'rachmana amar tar lo yavra rosho ad melos by a nazir. So again, he can't shave until day number 30, because on day number 30, as we've explained a few times, that's when no matter which one of the 4 personalities he has the right to shave. V'ilav mitzora vadaihu v'hu tameh. Let's say he's just a Nazir tameh. So what did we say? If he's a Nazir tameh, that means he's ending his Nazir's tameh period on day number 30. Chatas ha'ov chavas. So that's why he needs the chatas bird. Because l'maisa, that's his chova. V'tziporin Aryai kamis abdin v'lo havichulin ba'azara. And we said that the 2 birds being brought, this is still day number 30. Let's say on day number 30, he is actually just a Nazir tameh. So we said it's not a problem. He brought the chatas bird because that was what he needed to bring. The tzipor and Aryai kamis abdin v'lo havichulin ba'azara. If he was a Nazir tameh, he didn't need the 2 birds, but that's only going to be outside of the base finish, not a problem. And then the ola that he brought, which was only needed in case he was a regular Nazir, that's going to be a nedava. V'ilav mitzorahu v'lav tamehu. If he was just a regular Nazir, so then obviously the tziporin are not necessary. Tziporin Aryai kamis avnim, but it's outside, so it's not a problem. Chatas of likfura, the chatas of wasn't necessary either, because that was only necessary in case he was a Nazir tameh, so that's going to be buried. Which one was necessary if he was a regular Nazir on day number 30? Only the olas behema. Olas behema have chavaso, and the ola lamb is brought, and that's why it was the chova. So now the Gemara says, v'haboy asham. What's the Gemara asking here? So the Gemara is asking that the Brisa seems to be leaving out an asham. The mitzora needs an asham in order to be purified. But nowhere in this brisa do you see anything about the mitzora bringing his asham, even though it can be brought besafek. It could be brought when we're not sure that we need to bring it, because he might not be a mitzora. It could be brought besafek with the condition that if it's not needed as a mitzora, then it should be used as a shlamim. So why doesn't the brisa bring anything about an asham? So the Gemara answers, Rabbi Shimon hi da'amar maisei umasnei. You're right. It's a question according to Rabbi Shimon. Why? Because Rabbi Shimon holds that you can make a stipulation with the korban asham and say, if I need it as an asham, as a mitzora, then it should work as an asham, and if I don't need it as an asham, it should be a shlamim. You're right. According to Rabbi Shimon, you should have asked that question. Why didn't the Brisa bring up asham? Because Rabbi Shimon is a das yachid. What does that mean? Chachamim argue with Rabbi Shimon. Chachamim say that you can't bring an asham and say that if it's an asham, it should be for the mitzora, and if I don't need it for the mitzora, it should be a shlamim. Why not? Because they're worried. What are they worried about? Well, we know that an asham can be eaten. An asham can be eaten for less than a shlamim. An asham can only be eaten that day. A shlamim can be eaten for the next day as well. So what are they worried about? If you bring this korban as an asham, but if it's not an asham, then it'll be a shlamim. So what's going to happen? You're going to have it as an asham, and you might get confused. Did I say it's an asham? Is it a shlamim? What are you going to do? You're going to treat it as a shlamim. You're going to eat it the next day, and the Chaim worried that you're going to be over the noser. So since you're dealing with 4 personalities, which are very difficult to deal with, so you're going to get confused with asham and shlamim. So the Gemara says, according to Chacham, you wouldn't go ahead. You can't designate an asham and say if it's an asham, it's an asham, and if it's not, then it should be a shlamim. And that's why the Brisa doesn't say anything about a mitzvah. But in Echnami, within Rabbi Shimon, it should have said something about an asham by a mitzvah, since you can do that. But it doesn't, because he is a das yachid.
According to Chaim, you'd offer it right at the end?
Seemingly, according to Chaim, you would offer the asham at the end. Says the Gemara, So now the Gemara picks up on something that we've seen. You notice he only brings 2 birds on day number 30. He doesn't bring 2 birds on day number 60 or day number 90. Why not? Deha'avid ma'ika. Because Lamaisa, because on day number 30, that's when he's starting the Mitzorah Tara process, whether he was a Nazir Mitzorah or he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh. So he doesn't need to have 2 birds after day number 30. Ma'ika, so what's left? Dilma Vadai Mitzorah, who maybe he's a Vadai Muchlad, who if he's a Vadai Mitzorah, again, it's just saying everything that we said now inside. Dilma Vadai Muchlad, who Chada L'Safek Sifra V'Chada L'Safek Tumaso. So what's it saying over here? So the Gemara is saying that 1 Chata's bird on day number 60 he brings, and 1 Chata's bird on day number 90. Now we said that the one on day number 60, if you look back in your chart, on day number 60 he brings a Chata's bird to end the Mitzorah Tara process if he was a Nazir Mitzorah or a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh. And the Chata's bird he brings on day number 90 is in case he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh. Now he ends the Nazir Tameh period. That's what the Gemara says. You bring those 2 birds. Tiglachas Revius may be Korban Tahara, as we said. On day number 120 you bring the Chata's lamb and the Shlamim lamb. Umasni, and he stipulates the Vadai Nazir, who if he was a Vadai Nazir on day number 30, that means he was done. And therefore what? Ola Harishona Chova. The one he brought on day number 30 was a Chova. What about the one he brought on 60 and on 90 and now on 120? Then Vizu Nedava. 60, 90, and 120 are all going to be Nedavas because he didn't have to bring them. V'im Tamei Umachlad, who if he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tamei, well now, then all the ones he brought until now were necessary. Only the one he's bringing on day 120. And therefore Ola Harishona, the first 3 that he brought are Nedavas. Vizu Chova, Vizeh Sha'ar Korbano. And this is the rest of his Korban when he brings the Chatas lamb and the Shlamim lamb. If we would finish here, we would say, okay, it was hard, but it wasn't so bad. But the Gemara says, too bad, and you got to keep going. Says the Gemara now. What happens, forget about this guy with 4 different personalities. This was a guy who could have been one of 4 things. That's why it was very complicated. Somebody pointed out to me in the first year, and he's right also. He said, this is the Gemara's way of teaching us statistics and math permutation. So instead of learning it in calculus, so you learn it here in the Gemara.
And the cost of making yourself a Nazir.
And the cost of making yourself a Nazir, especially if you're going to be a possible Tameh and possible Mitzorah. Right. And if you want to throw in Mamzer, you can throw in Mamzer as well. Tameh Safek Umuchlad Vadai. Now, you have this guy who's a Nazir Mitzorah. Let's throw out everything not to throw out everything we've done. We need the Klalim, but different case. This guy now is a Nazir Mitzorah, and he's possibly a Nazir Tameh. So he's a Nazir. He's definitely a Mitzorah, and maybe he's also Tameh. Well, why does that matter? Let's say it outside for a second, because what did we say? When you're definitely a Mitzorah, so then you could push off the Nazirus. So this guy now doesn't have to wait till day number 30. The reason he had to wait day number 30 in the first case was because he might not have been a Mitzorah. But once he's definitely a Mitzorah, then on day number 1 of the 30-day Nazirus, assuming he finds out he's a Mitzorah on day number 1, then on day number 1 of the 30-day Nazirus, he could start his Mitzorah Tara process by shaving his head and going ahead and bringing the 2 birds. On day number 8, 7 or 8, we're not going to get too technical, 7 or 8, let's say day number 8 now, he finishes his Mitzorah process. What does he do after he finishes his Mitzorah process? Well, he has to be worried that maybe he's Tameh. Now he needs to count 30 days for his Tumah process, and when he's done with that, 30 days for his Nazirus process. So just saying it outside, you have day number 1, day number 8, day number 38, and day number 68. So let's see it inside now. Tameh Safek Umuchlad Vadai. He was a Nazir Mitzorah, and he was possibly also Tameh. So Ochel Bekotchim La'achar Shmona Yamim. He could eat kotchim on day number 8. We'll see why. V'shosei yayinu mitamei lemesim la'achar shishim v'shiva yamim on day number 68, as I mentioned. Why? Look at the chart. On day number 1, what does he do? He's a vadai mitzorah, so he can shave his body. So he shaves his body and he brings 2 birds on day number 1 to start the mitzorah tara process. And it pushes off the nazirus because he's definitely a mitzorah. 7 days later, on day number 8, he shaves his body again, and now he brings the mitzorah sacrifices to complete his mitzorah tara process. So what can he do on day number 8? He can eat the sacred fruit. That's what the Gemara says. On day number 8, he can eat the kachim because he's definitely no longer a mitzorah. But now he might be a Nazir Tameh. If he might be a Nazir Tameh, he's got to wait 30 days now to get rid of that tumah. So that's why on day number 38 now he shaves his head, which ends the possible Nazir Tameh period and begins his new Nazirus period. On day number 68, he shaves his head finally once more in order to finish his Nazirus. And that's why back in the Gemara, he could be Shosayayin Umatami Labesim when? After 67 days, which is day number 68.
I understand. If he was Suffolk Mitzvah.
He's not a Suffolk Mitzvah here. He's a definite Mitzvah here.
Definite
That's what he says. Tamei Safek umuchlad vadai. He's a muchlad vadai. He's a definite Mitzvah. That's why you can start on day 1, 1-8-38-68. Now the other case, muchlat Safek v'tamei vadai. If he's a Nazir Tamei and he's possibly a Nazir Mitzvah. Now this is your problem. This is your case. Because if he's possibly a Nazir, if he's possibly a Mitzvah, he can't do day number 1 and 8 anymore.
Right.
Because he's definitely a Nazir. He's a Nazir Tamei. So now he's got to do day number 1 and now he's got to do 30. So let's see what happens. If he's a Nazir Tamei and possibly Nazir Mitzvah, we'll see. Well, he doesn't have to wait till 30 because a Nazir Tamei can also go ahead and shave on day number 7. But the Nazir, the reason that in the first case with the 4 personalities he couldn't be because he might have been a regular Nazir who can't shave during the first 30 days. But here he's a possible Mitzvah and a definite Tamei. So what does he do? So let's see the sheet. On day number 3 and 7 he sprinkles with the Paraduma. Now on day number 1 he couldn't shave his entire body because he was a Nazir Tamei. But he was only a possible Nazir Mitzvah. If he was both, then on day number 1 he could shave his body for the Nazir Mitzvah. So now on day number 7 he shaves his entire body and he brings the 2 birds. What does that do? Well, if he's just a Nazir Tamei and not a Nazir Mitzvah, because he might just be Nazir Tamei, so day number 7 ends the Nazirus Tamei period and it begins the new Nazirus period, which will end when? On day number 38. If he was a Nazir Mitzorah and a Nazir Tamei, if he was really a Mitzorah, then what does day number 7 do when he shaves his entire body? It starts the Mitzorah Tara process. Now, when is that going to end? Well, that can't end now until day number 38. So on day number 38, he shaves his entire body again, and what? If he was just a Nazir Tamei, so then the 30-day period for the Nazir Tamei period, the new Nazir's period started on day number 7 or 8. Now he's done on day number 38. But if he was both, so now on day number 38 he ends the Mitzorah Tara process, but he still needs to go ahead now because we said the Nazir Mitzorah process comes before the Nazir Tamei process. Now he begins the Nazir Tamei period. However, he's definitely done with the Mitzorah process by day number 38. That's why on day number 38 he can eat kachim, but he still can't drink wine till he's done with his Nazir. So what does he do on day number 38? Now that he's a Nazir Tamei, but he doesn't have to worry about being a regular Nazir, so now he just has to count 7 days until day number 44, where he shaves his head again. And now he's done with the Nazirus Tamei period. But now he needs to still do his regular new Nazirus period, which would go from day number 45 to day number 75. And on day number 75, he would be done with his Nazirus. So you see over here how, again, he's definitely a Nazir Tamei, but he's only possibly a Nazir Mitzorah, so the Nazirus for the Mitzorah can't push off, the shaving can't push off, because it's only possible. So day number 7, he either ends his Nazir Tamei period, begins the new Nazirus period, which ends on day number 38, but we need to be choshesh that he was both. If he was both, then he starts his Mitzorah Tara on day number 7, ends that on day number 38, but now he needs another 7 days for the Nazir Tamei period till day number 45, and another 30 days now for the Nazir period until then finish with the Nazir. So hopefully the Gemara will say the same thing. Ochel bekachim lachar shloshim b'shiva yamim. That's why he could eat on day number 38 the kachim, because now he's done with his Mitzorah Tara process. V'shoseyayin b'tam l'meisim lachar shivim v'arba yamim. Now he can go ahead on day number 75 and he's finished with his Nazirus. One more case. He's a Nazir Tamei and a Nazir Mitzorah. So this helps us again, because if he's definitely a Nazir Mitzorah, he can do everything on day number 1 and day number 8. So let's see it on the sheet again. On day number 1, he shaves his body and he brings the 2 birds to start the Mitzorah Tara process. Because again, he's definitely a Mitzorah, he could do that. Day number 8, he shaves his body and he brings the Mitzorah sacrifice to complete the Mitzorah Tara process. That's why, according to this, on day number 8 now, he can eat the sacred food. But now on day number 8, he's a Nazir Tamei. So now he's got to start his 7-day count to shave his head on day number 14, 15. He shaves his head because now he's finishing his Nazir Tamei period. But now he needs to go 30 days until his Nazirus period is over, which is on day number 45. So over here he could eat kachim on day number 8, and he can eat and be metame. He could drink wine and be metame on day number 45. Let's see if that's right in the Gemara. Tamei vadai umuchlad vadai, where he's both. Again, what's the difference? Why is this ending on day number 45 and our first case today ended on 120? Because in the first case, he might have been what? We couldn't do all this because he wasn't definitely a Mitzorah. So we need to wait 30 days to start the Mitzorah, 60 days to then end the Mitzorah, 30 days for the Nazir Tamei, and then 100 at the end of 120 for the Nazirus, in the worst case scenario. Tamei vadai umuchlad vadai, ochel bekachim la'achar shmona yamim, like we said on day number 8, v'shoseyayin v'tamei lemeisim la'achar arba'im v'arba yamim. Shkoyach. So that's the hard part of today. Fine. Shalu Tamida v'Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So the Gemara has been assuming all along one very important thing that the Gemara is not going to necessarily be so comfortable with. The Gemara has been assuming all along that one shave cannot accomplish two things. That a shaving for the beginning of a Metzora period can't be the same shave for the end of the Nazir period. Right? That's why shave on day number 30 can begin the Metzora period, but then you have to wait till 60 to end the Metzora period, then you have to wait till 90 to end the Tami period, then you have to wait till 120 to end the Naziris period. Why can't we just knock them all off on day number 30 and say it's going to be for the beginning of the Metzora period? Okay, I understand I need to wait till 60 to end the Metzora period. But why can't the one on 60 be the end of the Metzora period, the end of the Tami period, and the end of the Naziris period, and Shalom Yisrael, and everybody goes home after 60 days and he can go be Metameh to as many Mesim as he wants?
Literally killing two birds.
You're literally killing two birds with one stone. Yes, thank you. I'm not going to say who that was on the tape. Shalu Talmida es Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Nazir tahor umitzora mahu sheyigalach tiglachas achas ve'ola lo lakan ulakan. So he's going to use a very specific case, but it would go back to everything we've been saying. You have a guy who's a Nazir. He's on day number 30 of his Nazirus. He's finally done. And what happens? He gets saras. So now at the end of his thing, he gets saras. So what does he need to do when he gets saras? Well, we said that if you're a definite mitzora, so you can shave your body and start the mitzora process. So the question is, now that he's going to shave his body for the mitzora process on day number 30, can that shaving on day number 30 be the end of his Naziris period, the beginning of his mitzora period, and now lemaisa when he finishes the mitzora period, so now what? So now he can go ahead and he'll be done 7 days later. Can that count lakanu lakan? Amar lahan eino megaleach. The same haircut cannot count for two things. Why not? Amru lo lama. Amar lahan, because the cutting by a mitzora and the cutting by a nazir are for two different purposes. What does that mean? Says the Gemara. Ilu zela gadel v'zela gadel. If you were cutting both of them so that you'll be able to grow the hair afterwards, it would be fine. If you were cutting both of them, zela havir v'zela havir yafe atem omrim, then it would be fine. Achshav nazir lahavir u'mitzora lagadol. Very interesting. Think about it for a second. The shavings of a nazir and a mitzora serve different purposes. A nazir shaves at the end of his naziris to remove all of the hair that he grew during the naziris. Why does a mitzora shave at the beginning of his mitzora tara process? In order to then grow back hair for 7 days that he could shave off again at the end of the tara process. So a mitzora is shaving so that he can grow back new hair to then shave off again, and a nazir is shaving just to get rid of the old hair that's sitting here. So you can't use it for one and the same. V'lo talalo limei chaluto v'talalo limei sifro. So they're very smart, the Talmidim. Talmidim are always very smart. So the Talmidim say back to him, you're right, fine. That's true by the first mitzora shaving. But let's say that you want to be able to count the second mitzora shaving at the same time that you count the nazir shaving. Why? Because you told me the problem is that the first mitzora shaving is to cut off the hair so that it grows back. And the nazir shaves to cut off the hair just so that it's gone. But the second mitzora shaving at the end of his tara process is what? That's to actually cut off the hair that just grew. That serves the same purpose as the shaving by a nazir. So why can't the second mitzora shaving be for both the mitzora and the nazir part? Ve'amar lahen, he's right. You're right, but ilu zel lifnei zrikas damim v'zel lifnei zrikas damim yafei ata'omrim ela mitzora lifnei zrikas damim v'nazir la'achar zrikas damim. There's another problem. That technically, you're right, the shaving by the second part of a mitzora and a nazir is the same. But there's another difference. A mitzora shaves and then he offers his sacrifices, and a nazir offers his sacrifices at the end of his 30 days and then shaves. And therefore you can't have the same shaving to be for after the sacrifices and for before the sacrifices. Talmidim are not done yet. Amrulo, so they said to him, Velo talalo limeit tzaraso uniziraso v'talalo limeit tzaraso v'tumaso. They said, fine. At least let the first shaving of the mitzora, back to the first shaving of the mitzora, let that work for the shaving of the nazir tameh. Why? Well, the first shaving in the mitzora, we said what? Is to shave off the head to then have it grow back. The shaving of the nazir tameh is to shave off the head to then grow to then let it grow back. So at least let the shaving of the mitzora in the beginning of his tara process also accomplish the shaving of a nazir tameh. Says the Gemara, Amar lahen ilu ze lifnei bias mayim, v'zel lifnei bias mayim yafe ata omrim, elatame la'achar bias mayim mitzora lifnei bias mayim. There's another problem, because there's a difference between a mitzora and a nazir tameh as well. A nazir tameh goes in the mikvah and then he shaves, and a mitzora only shaves and then goes in the mikvah only after he shaves. So there's a difference between a nazir tameh and a mitzora. Now the Gemara is just going to go with an alternative, which we're not going to get into. It's just basically saying parts of this again a different way. Amr lo, Yafer amarta shelo talalo limei sifra ol niziraso, v'talalo limei chaluto u'tumaso dezel agada v'zel agada hu. Amar lahen, nazir tar v'hu mitzora, zel agada v'zel havir, v'im nazir tameh v'hu mitzora, zel ifnei bias mayim, v'zel achar bias mayim. Again, just a different way of saying what we just said, an alternative version. We will pick up on the top of Samach Aleph, Amud Aleph tomorrow.